Okay, I think we'll get started here. So welcome everyone. I appreciate you joining tonight. We have kind of a twofold agenda happening here. One is kind of the high school protocols, procedures, and nuances, and also our first monthly Zoom meeting for Northwest soccer officials. So I appreciate everyone joining. This is going to be a dialogue tonight, hopefully, because I don't want to listen to myself talk for however long everyone wants to participate in this call. We already have 64 individuals on the call. I think that's fantastic, and I appreciate you spending the time with us tonight. And I think the important part here is that I do want to do some introductions because these introductions are people that you can reach out to outside of these calls as well in regards to assistance, help, mentoring, etc. So I'm gonna first jump with, I'm just kind of gonna go through what's on my list of participants. So Dave Augustavo comes up first. So I want to introduce Dave. Dave does a few things for us here in the state. One, he is one of the assigners in the Washington refs group that does high school games north of the South King County and Pierce County areas. And then Dave, your other role is you're our pro assigner, right? For those games between the adult amateurs and the MLS, right?
Supposed to be, yes. Welcome to myself.
Okay. And it sounds like you guys might have some games this year.
Yeah, we spent 2 years with the hey, we're about to. So sure, it'll be great if that happens, and all of a sudden we get a lot of opportunities for our referees.
So I'm guessing the Ballard team, the Ballard Club is one of them, and then I think Spokane.
I'm hoping that all happens.
Okay. Cool. Well, if you haven't met Dave before, I'm sure Dave will keep me honest tonight during the presentation, and he will help us out. I got Colin Nisco on here. He's the secretary of Northwest Soccer Officials and also is a regional referee. I've got Wayne Jackson on here. Wayne's even participating out there in Washington, D.C. while he's visiting his grandkids. And Wayne is our state director of assessment. So for those of you who are striving to get your regional badge, you're going to want to know him because he helps get those assessors lined up for you. Anything else you want to add there, Wayne?
No.
Perfect. I see Corey Thompson's joined us. He's the vice president of Northwest Soccer Officials. Ray Moffitt's made it on tonight. He's a national coach, and I'm sure that many of you have officiated games with him in the past. Thanks for joining, Ray. Let's see, who else do we have? Oh, Andy Johnson's on. Andy, you want to know Andy, if you want to do Washington Premier games, he does all the assigning down there. I bet he'll even give you a plug for Rainier Challenge happening at the end of June, right, Andy?
For sure. Best snacks in town.
I see Jeremy Gherking is on the call as well. He's the president of Northwest Soccer Officials.
Hello, hello.
And Jonathan Simmons is on. I think Jonathan is trying to compete with Wayne in regards to participating the furthest in the Zoom call tonight. I think you're in Mexico right now, right, Jonathan?
Yeah, and it's 75 degrees outside at night.
Yeah, thanks. I'm sure all of us who were at the Sounders game last night would rather be in Mexico with Jonathan right now. I see Craig Allen's on the call. He's the director of mentoring and does the assigning for Washington Premier League development at Starfire and Ravensdale now, as well as their state cups. So, and also regional referee. And so Craig's a good guy to know. Oh, I see Peter's joined us. Peter Strawn is a director at large for the Northwest Soccer Officials Group. And Cameron Zip is on. He's another of our directors at large. Joined us this year and also is a regional referee. And I think, Cameron, last summer you made it to which national tournament?
The National Championship Series.
Yep. So if you have aspirations of making it to your officiating career outside of Washington, Cameron's a great guy to reach out to and talk with. Cindy Moore's on here with us. Cindy is our director of instruction and really helps facilitate those new referee clinics so we can bring more people to our ranks. So good evening, Cindy. Okay, I think I've made it through my list and I may have missed somebody, and if I did, I apologize. So as I said, tonight's kind of twofold. One, talk a little bit about the high school, and then two, we want to talk about reffing in general. So these monthly calls were set up after the board having some conversations about how trying to engage our referees and helping them develop as officials. And we thought one way is through these webinars. I'm sure many of you spent 2020 and maybe some of 2021 with the SRC's webinars. They had some fantastic material that was really instruction. They had some great presenters. I know Ray and Wayne were part of that great work. You can still find those webinars. They were all 34 of the 36 were recorded, and you can get to them on the SRC website. I know that I still use that material in helping to develop our referees. But we thought that we needed to come up with another forum that maybe we could help referees in their games that are happening weekend and weekend out, and also be able to share with the officers, assigners of Northwest Soccer Officials to try to make officiating better in our areas, make some league clarifications, make sure we're all on the same page, talk about upcoming referee opportunities, and really the biggest thing about this is for you to be able to ask whatever questions you want to ask. So tonight, as we go through this information, don't hesitate to speak up. And if you want, you can put it in the chat, raise your hand. I think I've somewhat came up with and can monitor most all of the different ways that people try to communicate. So the next slide here. So the agenda, I have some stuff on some slides, but I'm hoping that, as I said earlier, you're all going to participate and come up with ideas that you want to talk about. Oh, I was just informed that Bruce Sugiyama is also on the line. He's one of our directors at large that joined the board this year as well. So I'll start us off and talk a little bit in regards to expectations when you're officiating. And this is kind of was put together for high school, but as I said, most all of this applies to our games that we have, our youth games and our adult games. So make sure we do a field inspection. The last thing you want is that ball popping through the side of the net and you and your AR not knowing whether or not it went through the into the goal or if it went around the goal. So make sure you are conducting that field inspection. You need to make sure you get a roster for high school from the coaches and you don't have to check them in. For those of you doing youth games on the weekends, make sure you're doing that player check-in. I've had complaints that people are not doing player check-ins. If you get to the field and your whole crew's not there, please get that check-in done. So that way the game can get started on time. For the high school games, it's now that the home teams can wear the dark jerseys and the visiting teams wear the white jerseys. And high school games, 99% of the time will have a trainer, which is fantastic because we can use that trainer to clear head injuries to make sure the players can either continue playing or not. And then I think more of us are seeing trainers during our youth games as well. And so I know any of you who participated in the National League, they had trainers for those 2 weekends. I know Pac Northwest had a trainer for their Winter Classic at Starfire. Starfire now, I think pretty much has a trainer on site every weekend of their summer tournaments. And so if these type of events, it's important as officials that we know if those services are there or not. And as assigners, we'll try to do a better job of letting you know when you have a trainer. I know that Ryan's Oli Rain or OL Rain games have had trainers at North SeaTac as well. And then all the ECNL matches, whether you're doing them at Premier or for Pac Northwest, they have a trainer on site. So make sure you're utilizing that service to be able to help players get back on the field if they can clear. And then the last thing for high school, they can use electronic devices in the bench area. Anybody got any questions, comments in regards to kind of the pregame portion of our matches?
Ray says, warm up prior to your first match of the day. Yes, do that.
Especially for those of us over the age of 20, we need you to make it to your third game of the day.
Yes.
Richard,
One-
if I could add, I think the real concern about that is when I go around, and that's just not here, but all over the country, to go out and watch any game, and usually on the first kickoff of the game, it's very aggressive, and then they're going to go down and try to attack real quick, and to watch a referee just stand in the center circle, not ready to perform at the very first second of the game is kind of disappointing. So you have to be prepared to do your job. That's all. So it's more about that than anything else. It's not about surviving. It's about giving the teams and players the same effort they're going to give you as players. You got to give it to them as referees.
Great, thank you, Ray. So just want to hit the lightning roll. I know several of you up at Valley Ridge a weekend or two ago had to deal with the lightning and thunder, as well as at Starfire, I think. So remember, when you have lightning or thunder, it's 30 minutes you have to stop the game for. And then if you hear it again prior to your 30 minutes starts over again. And this is this is what you must do. I think we are seeing a lot more lightning and thunder in our area. And so please make sure that you're following these requirements. Anybody have questions or comments to add about lightning? I know that with the National League, don't hesitate to reach out to your assigner. I know with the National League games, we were able to determine for those teams that had made it to halftime and started the second half that they had a legal game. And so for some of those games, they didn't even wait around for the second half or for the 30 minutes because the losing team was fine with calling it quits, and they still had a game that they had in the books. I know other refs out there. I think Dan Compton and his crew were stuck out there because both teams still wanted to play their game. So they had to wait for that time to be able to get their game going again. With the school games, you know, it's really in their ball court to decide what they want to do or not do. I know one year Ryan spent almost till 11 o'clock at night on a playoff game because the teams couldn't decide what they wanted to do in regards to lightning. And I think maybe the bus driver finally decided it for them because he wanted to go home. But with the high school, they can, again, I think if you make it through the first half, you've got a legal game as long as you started that second half. But they also have the ability to reschedule the game at a later date. So if they call it quits, you're still going to get paid. Just make sure that that's an agreement if we haven't made it to the second half. Otherwise, again, reach out to the assigner and they can help you maneuver that as necessary. Okay, anything in the
Rich.
chat or anybody else?
Yeah, Richard, I was just going to highlight what you said about then play takes shelter, especially if there's some anticipation. It's like that lightning, you know, it's that kind of weather possibly around to have a plan about where to go, like the players can go to the bus rather than just stand out in the field, not helping much if they all stand at the bench and just wait for the lightning to come and hit them anyway.
Yeah, good point, Stuart. Okay, just a reminder, substitutions is unlimited, which we have in most all of our games. You do need to pay attention. You know, ECNL does have substitution limitations as well as did National League. You also have Champions Cup. So in the girls, we just got done with Champions Cup with the boys, but when you get to the girls, the U15 and above that are playing in Championship Cup, they also have a substitution limitation. So make sure you're clear on that when you go to officiate those games. Any concussion? I kind of covered that over with the trainer piece. If you got a trainer, they can clear players to come back on fields. And if you don't, and you have a head injury in which you're concerned about the player having concussion, then we should not allow them back on the field until they're able to be cleared by a healthcare professional. And then, as always, just a reminder, blood, if players got blood on them, they need to get off the field and try to keep it off their uniform so that way they can come back in and or they may need to change their uniform. Any questions, comments on those topics? I do see that there's a comment in the chat that maybe we should talk through. There was they stopped with 5 minutes left in the first half. When they came back on the field, the team switched direction. This limited the time the second half could play because the match must be 2 equal halves. So that is a good, that's a good point. So in other words, I'm not sure what happened for sure in this one, Michael, but potentially if you had 40-minute halves in this game, they decided to use the timeout that they had as their halftime. So they actually played 35 minutes in the first half. You then would play 35 minutes in the second half to meet that definition of 2 equal halves. I think the other piece that we all have to be cognizant of is that these teams rent these fields and they rent them for specific periods of time. And so if you have a Pac Northwest game on Starfire 1 get delayed because of lightning, And they only have that field rented from 9 o'clock to 11 o'clock because at 11 o'clock, Eagle Claw has rented it for their game. Pack's got to be off the field by 11 o'clock. And so we somewhat have to become scheduling genies to make sure that we can keep the fields on track. And again, that's another place where you should be reaching out to your assigner to be able to help coordinate and figure out how much time you have left so that the teams can make decisions on how they want to proceed while you have that 30-minute break, as opposed to calling your assigner when there's 5 minutes left and try and figure out what you want to do, because the assigner is not going to be able to make the magic happen that quickly. I don't know if that's helpful to people or not, or if that brings up more questions.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
So I think that after hearing what you've had to say on that, I think the right answer for everyone should, once the 30 minutes starts, call the assigner and say, what is the right answer? Maybe it's just ask the coaches. But it might be more like you said, start with you, start with whoever the assigner is. Maybe the answer is talk to the coaches. Maybe it's what the assigner says.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, Michael, because the assigner can go in and figure out, if you're not talking, can you guys put yourselves on mute? Because there's a lot of feedback I'm getting.
Elmer needs to put himself on mute.
So I agree with you, Michael, in reaching out to the assigner, because they can usually go look at the schedule for that field and hopefully figure out what potential solutions are that then the referee may be able to broker with the coaches that are on the field at the time.
Right. And just that specific situation, as weird as it sounds, they should come back and play the last 5 minutes, then switch sides so there can be 2 equal halves. Otherwise, because these were travel teams for that National League, and they didn't come to not play that time. And they were able, and the PAC people were there. It was up at North SeaTac. They were able to extend the time of the lights on. So.
Yeah, that's perfect, because I know at Valley Ridge, that's what we were able to do there too, was call the Parks Department to get the lights extended so that way the teams could still get their games in. So there's lots of options if you, like I said, reach out early to the assigner to help figure out what's the right way to handle it. Okay, I hear quiet there for a minute, so I'm going to move on to the players' equipment. This used to be a big deal, and I don't think it's as big of a deal anymore. But again, just want to remind us, we need to be proactive with players' equipment. Nobody should be wearing jewelry. And if there is a problem with equipment, theoretically in high school, you're supposed to caution the coach for the first equipment issue. But after that, then you would caution the individual players. I'm hoping that all of you are taking care of the equipment thing, so you don't even have to think about having to caution the coach. But I think there is lots of information about jewelry. As referees, we should be setting the example by not wearing it ourselves. It's very hypocritical for us to tell someone to take off their earrings if we're wearing our rings. Any questions about equipment and how to handle that? Okay, let's hit some duration of match. High school are 40 minutes. Those of you doing the middle school games, those are nice, easy money. If anyone's looking for some easy money, our 2 30-minute halves. The halves can be shortened if agreed upon by the coaches. If there's a field clock, it's supposed to stop at 2. And then you as the referee should be managing that last 2 minutes plus any stoppage time. As always, I encourage you to communicate to the teams and coaches how much stoppage time you potentially will be having so that they're not yelling and screaming at you about how much time is left. And then I think the rest of it is kind of just more information. The halftime intervals for high school is 10 minutes. I think Ole Rain's academy games are they 15 minutes? Does anybody know? Who's been doing those games?
I know they're allowed up to 15 minutes. That's a lot of times they just want to play after 10.
I think
Okay,
it's 10. It's 10 when I did them.
okay. But otherwise, most all of our games that you should only have a 5-minute halftime. When you get to playoffs for high school, it is 2 golden goal, 5-minute halves, and then kicks from the mark. Unless you go to some of those other leagues that have created their own overtime intervals. Dave, does any of your schools have where they have to go the full 2 5-minute halves?
80 becomes 90, I think, in Kinko. And they have not changed that yet.
Okay,
I think Wesco regular season counters, I think they go 2-5's golden goal, Kinko. I'd ask them before the game, though. If it's a non-counter game, get that squared away before the game.
yeah, and I
Also, you
think
can ask, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think for in the South King County area and Pierce County area, really the only overtime during league play is Liberty, and I guess it would be, didn't Hazen go over to, what league is Hazen playing in now?
I think they're in Kinko now.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're Kinko 3A.
Yeah, so those are your 2 schools that you can get tripped up in.
Highline as
For,
well as 2A Kinko.
Hmm.
And Tyee and Renton and Evergreen.
That's right.
People have to do some work. Huh?
Does JFK?
Just ask the coaches.
Hey guys, does JFK fall into that too? Is there 3A?
No.
No. Okay.
Is that a yes or no? Is it, don't we have a
It's a
3A?
no.
It's a no,
Kennedy-
because we have a 3A
It is
in
NPSL.
PSL, yeah.
Sure.
And Alex said that in Kitsap, the 2A schools are tied. If they're tied, they do 2 5-minute golden goal and kicks from the mark. Okay, I hope everybody jotted that down so they have that straight. But I go back to Dave's
Ask the coaches.
excellent tip, which was ask before you start the game to make sure you look like you know what you're doing when the game ends.
Just confirm it.
Yeah. Fouls and misconduct. So just a reminder on high school, when they get a caution, the player has to leave the field, except for the goalkeeper. They don't have to leave the field. And then the player, if they're not replaced, the player can come on the next legal substitution opportunity. Don't be waving them on as the play is going. Both you as the ref and the player need some time apart of not being on the same pitch together. Let's see here. Rich Turner. Yep, he clarified the no wearing jewelry. And Brandon. Yeah, I wish, Brandon, I wish I could come up with a spreadsheet. Andy also brought this up. They change it constantly. And I gave up on it and I went back to the rule of I just confirm it with the coaches when I start. But let's see what we can we'll see if we can do something. Ryan might be able to find, at least with the ones in the South King County area, of what we have. Anybody who gets sent off in high school, the players can stay in the team area, just like our youth games. But if you're sending off adults, if you let them stay in their areas, you're just asking for trouble. So make sure you're getting those adult players who are sent off off the pitch area. Any questions about fouls and misconducts?
Yeah, I have a question regarding that. If a coach is shown a red card and he's the only coach there, does the match just continue? And who does substitution? Kids do their own substitution?
So in a youth game, if you send the coach, I would be asking if they have another coach and or manager that is now going to coach. And if they give you somebody who's now going to do that, I would use that person as the coach.
They need a player card though, right? Coach's card,
Theoretically.
manager's card.
They
Theoretically.
technically have to be on the roster too,
Yeah.
because otherwise you have somebody coming out of their car going, yeah. So they
I'm a
need to be
coach.
technically on the roster and have a card.
Yeah.
But if they don't have another adult, what do you do with the match?
Yeah, then the match can no longer continue, and you would need to write up a supplemental that after sending the coach off, that there was not another coach or manager to coach the team.
And is there a result for the match, or is the match considered abandoned and not?
You're abandoning the match. Let the league figure out who wins the match.
Okay.
I would just put the score in your supplemental. You're going to put what the score was and at what time the match was abandoned. And if people ask you that question, you just tell them they should follow up with the league. They're the ones that make that determination.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Can I ask another question regarding the field inspection? If no one else has a question on fouls and misconduct?
Go for it.
Yeah. What I had a situation where the goal did not have proper netting, and I had that situation you referenced where I did not see the ball go through the goal. I thought it went through the side, but coaches clearly saw it went through the goal. Some parents thought it went through the goal. But if you can't fix the net, I mean, not you as a referee, but if the team can't fix the net, do you not start the game? What's the protocol there?
Yeah. So I think it sounds like in your situation, you tried to work with the home team to get the net fixed. Is that a fair assumption?
Yeah, right. Yeah, at the beginning, but it still wasn't tethered properly, and the ball just went through. And I did not see it go through the inside of the goal. I did not award a goal, but the coaches were complaining it went through. Some parents were complaining. I can't call what I can't see. But if we can't fix the net before the match, am I not allowed to start the match and the game is abandoned?
So if
Richard, can I help?
Yeah, you can if you want, Ray.
Don't start the match. You know what? Again, I mean, there's a lot of things we can do to be creative. Always carry some zip ties in your bag. Maybe carry some tape in your bag, just because you might come across someone who's not prepared. I mean, you did your part by asking that they fix the goal, especially if you get there in plenty of time before your match, and you can inspect the field. Give them, you can't notice that right before you're blowing the whistle. Oops, the net's not secure. Well, we should have checked the net.
Right.
But 30 minutes before the game, if you check the net, you've given them 30 minutes. If they can't have it ready, again, it's not your fault that they're not ready. It's on them. It's on you. And so let them know that. And I don't think you're not asking that they fix the goal. You're politely telling them that the goal needs to be fixed so you can start the game. And then give them an opportunity to continue to fail. They already have. Let them continue to fail. And then it's on them. They can point fingers at you all they want to, but it's their field. They need to be prepared.
Okay, so the right protocol then is you abandon the match and file that in your post-match report.
I'm not saying abandon the match. I'm saying tell them to fix the goal.
Right.
If you tell them to, they will.
And if they can't,
I would reach out to your assigner as a good resource to be able to help you through the situation.
Yeah, because they try, the parents or whatever, the the team managers tried to tie it together, but it still didn't tether. And yeah,
Yeah, zip ties are a good friend. A few bucks at Home Depot or whatever. Those seem to work pretty well.
thank you.
Yep. Okay. This here is a just kind of provides information in regards to how misconducts are handled at the high school level. So with a second caution, we still need to fill out the ejection report on the WOA Central Hub, but they only have to sit out for the remainder of that game in which they received the second caution. If they get it send off for violent conduct, they get suspended for 20% of the games that are played. And if it's for serious foul play, they get a 1-game suspension. So there's some of the misconducts for high school. I know Rich Turner's on the call, and Rich Turner chairs the disciplinary committee or the process for RCL. So if anybody has questions about how disciplinary processes work around misconducts, this is a great opportunity. You can ask Rich. And Rich, this is a great opportunity. If you have anything, words of wisdoms for referees in regards to how we can do a better job of making sure our misconducts are upheld, I'm sure that everyone here is willing to listen.
Is Ryan on the call?
I did not see him on.
He and I traded emails about a situation. I sent him what's called the penalty code in the state, which talks about what's a minimum suspension for a misconduct. But he had asked me about referees not writing specifically what happened. So he was attempting to coach some referees about how they should write misconduct reports. We want to see the facts. We want to see the exact words used, the details. I think Roberto might have put something together many years ago, and I sent a document to Ryan that was put together in 2000, how to write misconducts. And again, that document would be worthwhile for anybody, particularly young referees, to see how they should write misconduct reports. We use them to determine what the sanction should be. And we say our mission is to keep players and coaches on the field as long as they follow the rules and the laws. And our mission is also to modify behavior. We want them on the field, but if they do something wrong, we want them to understand that they did something wrong, and then hopefully they won't. And we've been what we consider successful, and kids don't come back to us after having done a wrong thing. They don't come back. So we feel that's successful. But again, I sent a lot of stuff to Ryan because he was asking that stuff, and I can, like I said, you can get it from Ryan. He has a couple of documents that I shared with him.
Great, thank you, Rich. Does anybody have any questions about the RCL disciplinary process?
Richard, I think when people are writing their misconducts, I think that where a lot of us go wrong, me included in the past, we want to write a book when all you need to do is write a paragraph, stick to the facts, and quote what the words say. It was a reckless tackle. Reckless is a keyword for caution, reckless. Use that in your words and say the reckless tackle and then describe the tackle and stop. If it was serious foul play, say you witnessed serious foul play, describe what you saw, stop. Same thing for violent conduct, stop. If we get away from writing books and offering opinion that allows for whomever's reading the misconduct to make a nice quick decision. Because if all I said was there was violent conduct, number 7 in the white, punched number 6 in the black in the face, stop. That's enough. That's all they need to know. And I think that the majority of your misconduct will be upheld. Again, you can't worry about trying to keep someone in the game when they just punch someone in the face and just stop there. And that makes everyone's job easy.
And thank you, Ray.
Richard, can I hitchhike on that?
Sure, Wayne.
Yeah, what we're working with our regional referees is to be very simple and think of this in terms of what was the point of contact, what was the mode of contact, and then use the considerations for what the foul was. And that's exactly what Ray is talking about. Keep it that simple.
Perfect, thank you. Stuart, I'm not sure what the suspension length is for Dogso. Okay.
Yeah, it's like Dogso handling's usually one game because it's just so light. But if it's a, if it's a serious foul play, Dogso, then obviously it's gonna be more than one. I usually just direct them to talk to their ADs. It's not on us to determine length of suspension, right?
If it's serious foul play, it's not Dogso at that point in time.
Right. Yeah.
So
yeah.
I
Exactly.
think the key word there is, as referees, because this is something we have problems in college. They test us on this. Don't be concerned about the suspension. That's someone else's job. Our job is to be worried about what you just saw, not about what the punishment is going to be to that player once you administer the misconduct. Just leave it be. You give it a red card, let someone else determine what it is. You just write it up and other people will make the right decisions at that point.
Okay, that gets me through the pieces that I wanted to touch base on high school for sure, to get us all on the same page as we get started here. March 12th is our first games jamboree at Kent Meridian French Field. And there's lots of games on the website for those of you that are high school officials. If you're not a high school official and you want to become one, we're usually looking for people who are over the age of 16 and have had about a year's of officiating experience. So if you fall in that criteria and you're interested, please reach out to me and I will make sure I connect you with the right person, if it's not me, to get you on high school games. Anybody else have any questions or comments about high school games?
Hey, Richard, this is Darren. Got a question for you in regards to masking, non-masking protocols that high school areas are doing or not doing. Has any of that changed since last year? And if anything's changed, what are those protocols?
Yeah, good question. Because I think when we get done with our call tonight, it'll probably be changed again. But as of right now, how I'm understanding it is that for high school officiating is just like youth games now, except for with high school, we have to be vaccinated. And for all of us, we have provided our vaccine cards to Ryan, so that way we can show that we have been vaccinated. Otherwise, I believe that the outdoor masking already was lifted this last weekend in Washington State. And so with that, we don't have to wear masks to soccer matches because we're outside.
Yeah, and I know that they're going to lift the inside and outside masking, what, next weekend or the weekend after as well?
Right, the 12th.
Yeah, the 12th, yeah.
Yeah.
I just want to point that out.
Yeah. Now, if people want to wear a mask, you still can do that. There's nothing that says you can't there. But for officiating, I'm hoping that we're all to not wearing masks when we're in the middle, so we can use the whistle that we can blow instead of push. But if ARs are feeling uncomfortable still because you're in front of the benches, feel free to wear those masks.
Looks like we might need some clarifying Dogzo action in here.
Uh-oh. Did we get it? Did we get it? Did we starting to make it confusing?
Yeah, so again, keep it simple. So Dogzo is a call. I don't know if I agree with that, man. So it depends on if it's in the area or out of the area, right? Because there's no double jeopardy.
Exactly. The way think about Dogso is this: if it's outside the area and it's Dogso, someone's leaving. If it's inside the area, if someone is making a clear attempt to play the ball with their feet, then it could be downgraded to a yellow card. But if they've pulled them, pushed them, or something like that from behind, it's a red card. It's Dogso red. So it's only downgraded on playing the ball with your feet inside the area, inside the penalty area.
Thank you, Rick.
To follow up on that, because I was just at a match, my daughter's match, and it was a U13 girls match, and the goalie, one-on-one against the attacker, played the ball with her hands outside the penalty area. The referee called the illegal handling, but did not issue any caution. Was that the right call by the referee?
You tell me.
No.
Thank you. You already answered your question.
But is that a red or a yellow? She made an attempt to play the ball.
That's what I'm saying. You tell me, what should the call have been?
I don't know.
The answer is red. If you're saying that the goalkeeper came out and played the ball with their hands outside the penalty area to prevent the attacker from trying to score a goal, that's a classic case of denying a goal scoring opportunity. Unless the ball was like 30 yards away from the attacking player, but then I would still argue that's a Dogso red. You know, again, are we talking about down the middle of the park? Are we talking about in the upper right-hand corner or left-hand corner? I mean, there's some of the things, tell me more, but based on just what you said, I would think that the natural assumption would be Dogso red.
Yeah, okay.
Right.
So that
unless you had defenders between that last goalkeeper and the goal.
Exactly.
Unless you had defenders between
Yeah.
the last kid. Yeah, no. Yeah. And in that case, in that scenario, that's just a handling foul and no caution?
No, it would be yellow.
It would be a yellow.
It would be
Okay.
yellow. Yes.
Okay, this is helpful. Thank you.
Okay, I just had some topics I just wanted to throw out that have come my way recently. One, for those of us who are doing ECNL games as well as those academy games, make sure you're reading the game day procedures on the website. It lays out the substitutions and our expectations that they have of us. We get paid well. And so make sure you know how to officiate those games by reviewing those procedures. RCL has created a U8 division that they now have playing other RCL teams and wanting our excellent officiating services on. RCL U8 they follow the same rules as U9 and U10. Rumor has it they will not have rosters, but who knows? Some of you may have been getting rosters from them. The U10 Washington Premier League has started up. I don't know, Craig, are we just finished weekend 1 or weekend 2 already?
We just finished weekend 1.
Okay.
And so all those teams should have rosters and cards.
Okay. And they're playing, that U10 league is playing till what, mid-April?
Yeah, second week of April.
Okay. The spring rec league, they used to play rec ball just in the fall, but they wanted to make sure refs had enough games to go officiate. So the spring rec league happens now as well. Luckily, we usually don't have as many teams in the spring as we do the fall. But I know that's coming up here and starting in the next month or two. Can anybody tell me when you can have a contested drop ball on the pitch?
Never.
Thank you. There are no longer any contested drop balls, so please don't let me see you doing a contested drop ball on the pitch. If you can't figure out who it's supposed to go to, you better pick one, flip your coin for yourself or something. But every drop ball is now an uncontested drop ball. Man, I'm really missing the good conversation in the chat. It just keeps flying on me. Is there something good in the chat, Jeremy, that we should talk about with the group?
There's a question about referee abuse. So there's a question, Ryan. I'm unclear if the abuse is from the coaching staff or parents. Well, either way, I think that getting your stuff, getting out of there, and having and suggesting that they contact the assigner is the right way to go. But be safe with yourself. Hopefully, you're able to walk with other members of your crew out to your car. There's a question about cards still related to the referee abuse, which has to do with my question of is it a parent or coaching staff, right? Because that will determine what's cautionable.
Ryan, are you on where you can pick up?
Yeah.
Oh, perfect.
It was coaching staff. You know, to give it a little background, it was like a U19 tight game to the end. And the opposing coach didn't agree with how much stoppage time I gave. Felt like he should have had more, and really persisted after the game, and you know, cussed me out, stuff like that. I kept cool, all the professional stuff. I, you know, didn't let him elevate, and you know, try to get out of there as quick as can with my team. But you know, thinking back, I wonder, should I have carded in that situation and followed up with a report, or should I let it lie like I
all
did?
the above? Think about it. Go ahead, Richard.
So I'm gonna go back to the tools we have to deal with coach and spectator abuse, because I think, unfortunately, Ryan, it's not just about coaches being abusive after the game. I'm hearing about spectators being abusive after the game. And so I think I always try to get us back to the ask, tell, remove. So we can ask them to please be done, and you appreciate their perspective, but there's nothing we can do about it. And if they can't walk away and leave it alone, then we're going to tell them that we've had enough and that we should show them a yellow card at that point. Even though the game has ended, we have the ability to still issue misconducts because we haven't left the pitch yet. And if he still or she still can't seem to be quiet, then Ray's got right on there. It's a red card. But I always like us to try to use our 3 steps, because hopefully I am optimistic that our coaches will realize after they see the yellow card that they're being an idiot and it's time to just shut up. But if they can't realize that, then it's time that we have to use the tools that we're given. Does that help, Ryan?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Ryan, could I just also add, Richard, if you don't mind, if you are at all approached by a parent after the game, you should go to the coach, you should point that parent out and tell that coach that that will now be under a supplemental. And if the coach doesn't want to do anything about it, show them a card so that the parent understands that they can't come over and have that conversation with you because the coach is responsible for their behavior. And I've had a couple of situations where people have followed our referees to a parking lot, and they filled out a supplemental, and we're having to deal with the director of coaching about parents and this behavior. Okay.
So
I know
if I could,
I know of a club that I assigned for whose parents were suspended for a game because of their abuse to the referee. And so if we don't handle it with misconducts, then the disciplinary committee can't provide sanctions. And so it gets back to what we permit, we promote, And when we don't deal with these situations with the tools we're given, the next referee is going to probably have it worse than you did.
Can I add one thing there, Richard? So I have a dubious honor in Oregon. I hold the record for most red cards in a single match. 7. Yeah, it was a big melee at the end of the game. Big fight, pre-planned fight, by the way. We learned later. But one pre-match thing that you can do, and this really saved me physically, was I found the athletic director for the school. They were at the match, and so we met. And so when this match went the way it did, and we cleared the field, they were out there. The athletic director was out there in the middle of the pitch with us, and a very, very large parent to walk us to our car. So, not that you expect it, but if you can meet someone who is a little bit removed from the game instead of a coach, an athletic, someone in charge of a vice principal, something to that effect, that's the person that's going to come to your rescue.
Right, which is a good reminder, Michael, of that, especially on our high school games, that we make sure we find out who the and I can't remember the official title, but whoever the site manager is of the day that you're going to be able to go to if you're having issues on the pitch. Site administrator, perfect. I know that when I go do my adult games and I go to a stadium, I always make sure I say hi to the site manager of the day, because I know the site manager is going to be the only person who's going to have any pity on me if my game goes sideways and may help me get out of there. So those are good people to know. Slide tackling. I just want to, this is another area that has come up, and I just want to clarify for WPL and for RCL, they allow slide tackling at U9 and above. So please do not be calling fouls on slide tackling on U9 and U10 in RCL and WPL matches. Anybody have any questions about slide tackling? And I think we've already hit the last bullet on this slide, unless anybody else had any other questions, comments, scenarios about dealing with coaches, players, and spectators' behavior.
I'll add a brief comment. I think that when you referee games, usually where things go wrong is when we as referees try to do more than what we're capable of, trying to play advantage at the wrong time, trying to let them play more than we're capable of letting them play, and trying to reel the game back in. Keep your game simple. If you see a foul and you set a bar, understand what your bar is. So if a foul is, say, like a level 5 on one end and the other team does the exact same thing on the other end of the field, you have to call it, because when you don't, that's what creates confusion, and confusion creates anger. So if you are good as a referee, they being players, coaches, and fans will not be bad. You can control how you're treated by keeping your game that simple. Just call the simple fouls all day long, and you'll find that people will just leave you alone.
So I know we've been talking for about an hour now, and I know probably people have things to do. And if you want to sign off, feel free to sign off at any time. I know I can't keep track of the 65 people are on here and who will be here or won't be here at the end. So please don't feel bad if you've got to go. Today, it's been some really good conversation. And in my opinion, I'm hoping that many of you are finding it useful. I do have a couple more slides if people do want to stick around and take a look at them. For those of you who are wanting to move up and or have your ranking increased on the Northwest Soccer Officials website, there is a fitness test this Saturday. Wayne has arranged it from 1 to 4 at French Field. I think the registration is probably still open, but probably isn't going to be for very long. So if you want to do the fitness test, this is an opportunity. And I know Wayne and I are working on trying to get a few more scheduled in the year in different places of the state. But here is an opportunity this coming Saturday. Some of the other opportunities is the Washington Youth Soccer State Cups. There's still 2 left. If you're interested in doing those and haven't already filled out that survey, please get in contact with me. I know Craig also needs help with his WPL State Cups that occur in the South King County area. And there's the dates for those 3 cup events. Hopefully we'll get a grassroots advanced training here in the next few months. And I hope that many of you are working towards your regional referee requirements for those that are interested in that rank. Anybody have any questions in regards to referee advancement?
Is there a minimum amount of time you have to have experience before you can start requesting for advancement or for advancement?
So there isn't for the grassroots advance. That class you can take at any time once you've become a referee. To become a regional referee, you do have to be a grassroots referee for at least 3 years.
Richard, can you give a quick synopsis of why you'd want to get those advancements?
Yeah, good question, Jacqueline. So I know for Northwest Soccer Officials, we use those advancements to be able to increase your rankings on the website so that you can self-assign to higher level games and not have to do request. Ray's comment is absolutely correct. It's more money. You usually get paid for the higher level games. Ryan, I'm not sure if it's more abuse. I think I find U19 games less abusive than those U10 games that we stick our poor new referees on. Because usually that by U19, the parents seem to have given up at yelling at us because they know it does no good. Whereas those U10 parents still think their kids are going to get that college scholarship. So I think that's probably that's one thing is the rankings. I think that the additional training helps you as an official. The grassroots advanced, the material is goes more in depth in regards to officiating, in regards to positioning, handling fouls and misconducts, as kind of how that game continues to evolve as you do those older levels. And then going from grassroots advanced to regional, a lot of that's really you're able to demonstrate not only your knowledge of the game, but also the fitness level, as well as having to pass 3 assessments demonstrating that you can officiate at that level of a game. Jacqueline, does that help?
Yes. I understand the training is good, but like, do you have to have those to do certain games? Like, what is the end goal of why would you want to be a regional referee other than the training? Like, do you get anything different? Do you do different games?
Yeah, so I know that, so like in Northwest Soccer Officials, if you want to be able to self-assign to a boys 4A center, you've got to be able to, you got to be a regional referee. Otherwise it kind of goes down from there. If you want to get to the outside of the area of officiating, so I know individuals who go to regionals, those that are regional referees have a lot higher potential to be able to make it to nationals than if somebody was just a grassroots referee. So it really opens up more opportunities. I know Dave, in the games that he's going to assign with the semi-pro, he's going to be looking for regional referees to do those games over grassroots referees. So it does get you higher level games.
Okay, thank you.
Hopefully most of you have seen the tournaments that are coming up on the website. We do have them posted in a couple places, so get those on your calendars. We can definitely use everybody's help in getting these tournaments covered. And as we know, we need more of us out on the pitch. And so I think we are one of the best recruiters for referees. And so here's some upcoming dates. And if you know people who want to become a referee, make sure you point them towards the Washington Referees website, and so they can sign up to become a referee. Once they've registered, they'll complete their online clinics. And then once they get their online clinics done, they can pick one of these dates to be able to do the in-person portion. And the more people that we get signed up, the more clinics we can have opened up to give more opportunities to referees. Anybody have any questions about new referee clinics? Brandon, next time you see me, I can give you some recruitment cards. And then the last thing I had tonight was, here's our schedule for our Zoom webinars. I definitely am interested in what topics you want covered. So if you have things that you want us to bring up and go a little bit more in depth in, please shoot me an email or text me or call me, and we'll throw them onto the slide so we can use those as our talking points going forward. And with that, I'll just open it up to see if anybody had anything else they wanted to bring up and talk about if we didn't cover it already.
Richard, I have a question regarding verbal abuse, not on the referees, but players to other players. And I know it's a topic that's hard to codify, but wanted to get some people's thoughts and experience, what they've done when they've heard certain things on the pitch. Obviously, the extreme example is one, my son's team, after the match concluded, it was a chippy game, but one of the players on the other team called one of our black players the N-word. And that to me, if I heard, I would immediately send off. But I don't know what other people's experience in certain derogatory comments, like what have you done or what have you heard? And you know, I can't look at the laws of the game for guidance on that.
So I think you've brought up a topic that unfortunately I've had to deal with definitely more than I've wanted to. I think that what you've provided as an example is something that is not tolerated, and as the referee, if we hear it, it has to be dealt with, whether it's during that 90 minutes of the game or if it's on or near the pitch, as we are officials. I'm not sure of the example you just gave us of whether or not the referee heard it. But if the referee doesn't hear it, there is nothing that the referee can do based on somebody telling them that they were called the N-word or any other racial slur. And I say that because it's not only happening just after the game, it's happening during the game. And I think we all know that I doubt many players are going to use a racial slur so that the referee can hear it as they're trying to entice the opponent to do something stupid so that the opponent gets a red card. And unfortunately, in most of the cases I've seen lately, the opponent is getting the red card for the retaliation and not the player who instigated by using derogatory terms. Does that help, KD? And does anybody else have anything to add?
One thing I'd add, Richard, is when you're doing high school games, it's an extension of the classroom. So you should have a tighter leash than you would for maybe a U19 RCL Division One. And so just, make that clear to the coaches and the players that is this appropriate in the classroom.
I think the leash should be tight, period. Let's not differentiate between high school and others, because then we can have that conversation about all our young ladies who we never give cards to because we don't want to give a card to a 10-year-old girl who's beating the crap out of someone on the soccer field. I think that when you ref games, again, when it comes to things like that, racial slurs and things like that, when you referee a game, I think part of your job is to understand the environment for that 90 minutes. And you should be able to read the room. It's no different than, who the good player is. And so you know that everyone's going to be kicking that player. So you know who the knucklehead is out there, the guy who's flapping his gums the entire time, the one who's talking a lot of trash the entire time. So you got to pick up on that. That cannot be overlooked and ignored. And so I would say that, again, I agree with Richard. If you don't hear, you can't do anything. I agree with that. And I'm not saying having rabbit ears, don't get me wrong, but you have to be aware of where the activity is. And as assistant referees, there was a situation 2 years ago. I want to say it was, it was Landon Donovan's team that he coaches in the, which was then the USL Championship. I think they rebranded the league and stuff like that. I mean, I knew the officials that were on the game, and I knew what happened to those officials after the game. And the sad part about it was that one of the referees heard it and didn't do anything about it. And then it became a national story. And so, again, you have to be aware of what's going on. You have to be aware if you notice, gosh, okay, there's and I can say, as a Black person, I can say this. If you can see that there's one Black player on the field and you go, oh, wow, he keeps getting kicked. I wonder what else is being said. Or now, look at the dynamics of what's going on in the world. The soccer field is an extension of what's happening out there. So don't be surprised sometimes. You can't be surprised. And that doesn't mean we're social workers or anything like that, but you just have to be aware of your surroundings. I think that's the best way to say it.
If I could add to what Ray was saying there, even the littlest things, nip it in the bud. Even if it's as simple as you call a foul, and as things are happening, an opponent applauds and sort of walks by the guy. That's going to escalate. Deal with that now, or else you're going to be dealing with a lot more later.
Yeah, thanks, Ray and Paul, for that. Richard, you brought up an interesting point about the instigator versus the retaliator, and who should get the more severe caution. I'll give an example. One of our players stood over the opponent and mocking him for something, and I did not like. If I was a ref, I would have given him the yellow. But the other player's teammate came in to protect him and pushed our player down. The ref gave the retaliator the yellow and not the instigator.
Mm-hmm.
That in my opinion, that was the reverse. It was wrong. It should have been the reverse. No, am I wrong in that assessment?
You're absolutely correct. And here's now, the young lady asked earlier about the difference in the levels of referees. Here's what I would say. A regular referee catches a retaliation. The good referee sees the instigator and the retaliator and gets them both. Now, for a guy, I'm a national coach and I evaluate referees right now. That's what I'm looking for. Who sees them both? And the really good referees see both actions, not just the second one. We always see the second one, but do you see the first?
But would you punish both equally?
Of
Consider
course.
that.
Of
Well,
course.
for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction.
Exactly.
The retaliator would not have retaliated if the instigator didn't.
Exactly. And you know what? Here's what I tell all you people, all you referees who are parents with multiple children. When bad things happen, do you punish one child more severe than the other, or do you give equal punishment? Most of us give equal punishment if we can't determine who's really at fault. Am I right? If I'm lying, I'm dying. Okay. So therefore, I always ask, why would you not do on the field what you do at home? It's just an extension of being a referee is an extension of being a parent. But yet we ref games like with deers in the headlights sometimes. It's the exact same thing. I'm not punching you for no reason because you did something to me first. And so keep your eyes open. Just keep them open a little bit wider to the interesting things that would happen during the game. And you see that there's a reason why this guy is chasing this guy around the field because he just got kicked. And I may have missed something. Well, just keep our eyes open a little bit longer.
Thank you.
So yeah, Katie, definitely in that. If I was the official in that match, I would be given a yellow to both players because both players have done something to infringe on the laws of the game. I was on an assessment match, I think a weekend or two ago, and we had a situation in which a red card was issued, and which was completely deserving. It was excessive force tackle. And the player who got tackled got up and shoved the person who committed the foul on them. And unfortunately, the ref didn't give the yellow card on that. And I think that made the game a little bit harder. Whereas if he would have given the yellow card, even though that kid had gotten tackled in a way that was not good and did not deserve it, he still did something in reaction. And so to be able to keep the rest of the players that are on the pitch and, respecting the game, you've got to issue that yellow card, because otherwise, like I said earlier, what you permit, you promote. And now you've just given all the players on the field the green light to retaliate because you're not going to do anything about it.
Thanks. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions, comments? This is great conversation.
I just want to follow up on something Ray said about reading the room earlier. I had a team where all the players on the team were referring to each other, and they were of all races, but they were referring to each other with the N-word, calling each other, like a buddy thing. And the first time I heard it, I wasn't sure. The second time I heard it, I just stopped and I said, look, you guys might be okay with that, but I'm offended now. And I don't want to be offended today. And so the next time I hear that, somebody's going to get cautioned or sent off. Nice. So please find another word to call each other today. And it stopped. So you just find a tool in your toolbox that allows you to be the bad guy, so that and nip it in the bud.
Corey, what I like about that story is your demonstration of being a proactive referee instead of a reactive referee.
Exactly.
Because potentially in that situation, somebody says and uses that word that offends another player and decides that it's no longer fun to be able to use that word on the field. And now you have a situation on your hands that you've got to deal with because somebody got called that word that everybody's been using, but they didn't like the tone that it was said, and they want you to do something about it. So it was nice that you took care of it up front, laid out the expectations, and then you didn't have to deal and be reactive to a situation. Any other questions, comments?
And let me, if I could take this opportunity, Richard, we spoke yesterday just about refereeing, and I think we've kind of covered some things today just in the casual conversation about reading the room, about understanding what your role is. And now I've talked about taking yourself onto the field and taking a part of who you are on the field. You're not just a referee. You guys are not objects out there. You're people. Is what you are. And you're out there sharing the field with 22 other people. The difference is they're playing a game and your job is to watch them play the game, and you might blow the whistle when they do something wrong. Look at it like that. And I think sometimes we overthink it, and think about it, just be as simple as you can. If nothing goes wrong in your game, there's only going to be 4 whistles. one to start the game, one to end the first half, one to start the second half, and one to end the game. That would be the perfect game. We all know it's never going to happen. But if you try to think about it like that and then understand that what's right and what's wrong, you allow things that are right and you don't allow things that are wrong. That's for on the field. But the one thing I want to focus on right now is some of the off the field things. You know, I know it's cold, and believe me and Elijah, we were just in Washington, D.C. at a showcase event. And I was shocked to go that far and watch people referee games like they were going to watch the Winter Olympics. I had guys out there that was dressed like, you know, they looked like the Stay Puft Marshmallow guy in Ghostbusters. And they were out there reffing like that. And I'm going like, these kids are out there in their uniforms and we're out there like, and it was cold. Don't get me wrong, it was cold. But I expect you to be nice and warm in between the games, but look like a referee while you're refereeing the game. And I think that's important. And then you have, we talked earlier about grassroots versus regional. For all my referees who are regional, always remember to look the part, because you have referees with lesser experience. They look up to you as role models, and you need to do your part as a role model by looking the part, giving the effort. That's important. And then when Richard assigns a game, now there's always 3 spots and the age may vary depending on your spot. But recently, and we've talked about referee abuse earlier. Think about a match and you have say a 17-year-old in the middle and a 25-year-old on one AR and a 40-year-old as the other AR. The 40-year-old, while not in the middle of the field, he's a senior official. And therefore, that 40-year-old's responsibility is to protect his younger colleagues. So when we hear about referee abuse, and then it turns out that I have a mature person on the match, and then we find out that, well, and I'm going to ask, well, what did you do? Because that happened when we were in Washington, D.C. It's like, dude, why didn't you saw all this activity? And my question after the game is, did you not hear what was going on? Why didn't you, as the AR1, and with that coach behind him going, I mean, he was going bananas. Why didn't you say anything? That's a response. Our job is to protect. And then for our younger referees, when our older referees our more mature referees, our more experienced referees have good advice for you, either during the game or the halftime interval, listen to them. All they're trying to do is offer help, offer assistance. If things are said that are too confusing, then, as we said it a number of times, then it's time to call your assigner after the game. But you might take a little bit of advice during the game. You know, that advice that says, you might want to call a foul every now and then. Or, geez, you might be calling too many fouls. Let them play just a little bit. Again, we've all been the AR, and we've all said to ourselves, I mean, if I was in the middle, I'd be blowing my whistle. Have you not said that before? We've all said it. So when your referee swings by on a dead ball on the throw in, why not ask him to come over and say, hey, you know what? Think about what you're doing. Help them out. We're family. We're all in this together. And would you let your family member endanger themselves in real life? The answer to the question is no. So why would you do it on the field with your referee brother or your referee sister? I don't understand this. So I would say, think about when you ref, think about your reffing with your brother and sister and how you guys are a team and a group. Look at your games like that moving forward and see how that's going to help you referee your games better. I'll stop talking.
No, thank you, Ray. I appreciate that. I think these are, unfortunately, some of the aspects of the game that we don't talk about as much, especially for new referees. We're trying to get you to know the laws of the game and how to hold your flag, but really don't get into the semantics of the job and how we help each other out there on the pitch, because it is 3 of us, and the other teams have 18 players at least plus more. So we do need to be there for each other. Well, I appreciate everybody's time tonight. We've been here for 90 minutes. So I hope you got a few tidbits of information that are going to help you in your games. I hope that maybe in a month I didn't bore you too bad tonight, and maybe you'll come back and we'll have some good conversation again. I really appreciate it. Have a good night, everyone.